Semen retention gang, you know what's going on. Listen, bro. At the end of the day, increase your range, decrease your rage. I repeat, increase your range and you decrease your rage. At the end of the day, if you learn Spanish, you now have range to mess with Spanish women all the way from south of the North America all the way down to South America. You literally have unlocked all of South America. Do you not understand? Financially, you have unlocked all of South America if you fluently speak Spanish. Now you have more range and you have decreased rage. If you only speak English, you are only limited to the 50 states of America. You can only make money in the 50 states of America. You have increased rage because you have decreased range. Now, with that being said, you don't want to increase your rage and decrease your range. What you want to do is increase your range and decrease your rage. Listen, now with that being said, if you speak Indian, if you speak Portuguese, now you increased your rage all over Brazil. You can go all over Brazil. You could talk to any woman in Brazil. You could make any business transaction in Brazil because you now increased your range. I repeat, you can make any business transaction in Brazil. You could talk to anybody in Brazil. You increased your range. If you want to do future business, like I want to do a future exotic car dealership in the future, I have to increase my range so I don't have to increase my rage. So I can decrease my rage because I have increased range. With that being said, if I only speak English and I sell exotic cars, what if there's a language barrier? I repeat, what if there's a language barrier? Now I can't make this business transaction because I don't know how to conversate with them. They don't know how to conversate with me. I don't know what they're saying. They don't know what I'm saying. Now that's decreased rate. That's increased rage. At the end of the day, no, we're going to increase our range. At the end of the day, listen, with the exotic car dealership in the future, I can now talk to anybody from Spanish. I could talk to anybody from Spain. I increase my rage. At the end of the day, I now get to conversate with them. I now can talk to them. At the end of the day, if you learn French or if you learn German, you now have range over most likely half of Europe. Now you got range to make business transactions. Now you got range to make sales. Now your sales are increased. The numbers are up because you have increased range. With that being said, this is the importance of learning different languages. When you learn different languages, you have increased range. Listen, if you get the multi-millions, listen, you have increased range all over the world. Money talks. If you are a multi-millionaire, I repeat, if you are a multi-millionaire, you now have increased range. Don't you understand? You can now have a baby in Monaco. You can now reproduce in Hong Kong, China. You can now reproduce in Japan. You can now reproduce in the Dominican Republic, in a gated community, in a $30 million home. Because you have multi-millions, you can afford to increase your range and decrease your rage. At the end of the day, listen, don't focus on the average. The average have increased rage. The statistics, those are the guys with increased rage. Listen, we are not the statistics because we are not the average. The statistics are based on the average. I repeat, the statistics are based on the average. The people with increased rage and decreased range. At the end of the day, listen, if you don't have resources, you're limited to only your city. You can't even move or afford real estate in other cities because you are now limited. Now you have increased range. Now you have to beef with the local person at the local food mart. I repeat, now you have to beef and go back and forth and watch out for the local person at the local food market because you have decreased range. No, you increase your range so you can make more and more boss moves. Listen, increase your range. If you get muscles, now you have increased range. Listen, now, listen, this is a jungle we live in. You take away all the buildings, this is still a jungle. If you're in shape, you have increased range. You have decreased rage now. Listen, now you're more attractive to majority of women. At the end of the day, now majority of women, they can use you as a bodyguard if need be. At the end of the day, you got to understand, you increase your range so you can decrease your rage. You don't increase your rage so you can decrease your range. No, absolutely not. You don't want to be beefing over the local single mother. Guys are literally beefing over single mothers, and they're not the father because they have decreased rage. They have decreased range, so now they have increased rage. At the end of the day, stop the nonsense. Learn different languages. Become fluent in different languages. If you fluent in Spanish, you now have increased range. And listen, you could hit Spain. You could hit some countries in Europe like Spain. You could hit all of South America. You can hit some parts of Brazil because you're fluent in Spanish. You can hit up Texas. You can hit up Houston. Listen, you can hit up all over the South. You could go to Arizona, the Midwest. Listen, they speak Spanish down there too. At the end of the day, that's increased rage. You know how much your options will go up if you now are fluent in Spanish? If you're fluent in 3 different languages, if you're fluent in Italian, you now have range and options in Italy because it won't be a language barrier. She can bring you home to her family, and her family can conversate with you in Italian, because you have increased range. You are not the average if you increase your range. If you focus on getting to the multi-millions, listen, you have increased range. And now decreased rage. If you pulling up in a Rolls Royce, you have increased your range. Now more options are available. You don't need to get bitter and blame the white man. What you need to do is get better. You don't need to get bitter and blame the white man. What you need to do is get better. If you get better, you increase your range. If you speak different languages, if you practice your languages, if you get out of the dating, listen, cancel the dating game. You guys are limiting your options. Cancel the dating game. Listen, stop having sex. It's time to increase your range. It's time to focus on the multi-millions. Listen. You are a man. You want the best option possible for your future children. You want what you really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna. Listen, at the end of the day, get what you really, really want. At the end of the day, if you want the woman who can't even speak English like that, and she speak broken English, and she really speak Italian, listen, you can now marry her. You guys both speak Italian. She understands you fluently. You understand her fluently. But if you didn't learn Italian, now you can't get her. I repeat, now you can't get that. Now you can't make that your wife. At the end of the day, you now decreased your range. Now you have to stick between your range. At the end of the day, listen, you got to understand, if you have limited resources, you have limited range, and you have increased rage. At the end of the day, listen, you take your time, get better, and don't get bitter. At the end of the day, Monk Mode gang, you know what's going on. Listen, bro.